Hi, okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Admin Tech Talk, reflecting on tech issues over the last year. We're so glad that you could all be here today. My name is Ria Rajesh, and I'm the annual lead marketing intern at Digital for Good x I can help. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce the moderator of today's panel discussion, Chad Sussex. Chad Sussex currently serves as the 7 to 12 assistant principal and AI task force leader in the Winterstedt Community School District in Iowa. An educator since 2008, he previously served as a technology instructor and technology coach. Servant leadership is central to the various roles and positions Chad has held: restaurant management, U.S. Army non-commissioned officer, and education leadership. He excels in supporting others to be innovative and willing to fail forward, iterate, and be perseverant. Chad finds strength and encouragement from his loving family, his wife, and 2 children. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll pass things over to you.
Thank you, Ria. Appreciate that. Welcome, everyone, for joining us today. So first, a little bit about Digital for Good. Digital for Good is a nonprofit that educates students and adults about digital citizenship, safety, wellness, and literacy. Through its programs and events, Digital for Good aims to celebrate youth innovation, empowering student changemakers, and promote digital safety. Digital for Good reaches thousands of students nationwide, and its impact is amplified even further by the innovative Train the Trainer learning model featured in its educational programs. This model empowers students with the tools and training needed to mentor their peers in the safe, responsible use of digital technology. At the foundation of Digital for Good's work is the idea that students are the core of the solution to online toxicity. When something happens on social media, students are the first to see it. The more we can do as administrators and educators to train, guide, and support our students, the more likely they are to take a positive action. All right, let's introduce our panelists. First, we have Mr. Martel Price, the principal at Oakland Tech. Thank you for joining us, Martel. Our second panelist, we have Mr. Tyler Wiedemeyer, principal at Crestwood Middle School. Thank you for joining us, Tyler. Third panelist, Mr. Derek Lawson, principal at Indio High School. Thank you for joining us, Derek. And our fourth panelist, Mr. Don Goodman, who is the principal at Morenci High School. Thank you for joining us, Don. All right, as a reminder, this event is about 60 minutes long. We will be holding a Q&A session after the panel discussion. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. In the interest of time, we may not get to all the questions today, but we may include them in a future webinar. So without further ado, let's dive into today's discussion about some tech issues during the 2024-2025 academic year. So the first category is around balancing AI and traditional learning. So as AI tools become more integrated into education, how is your district ensuring that students still develop fundamental skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and written communication without over-relying on AI? Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Price, if you would lead us off.
A good question. Thanks for starting with me. You know, different things are being tried in different areas. This question, first off, makes me think about how in the post-COVID age, or once we went to distance learning, a lot of teachers became reliant on Google Classroom in my district and using Chromebooks as an interface with our students. And that's a good thing on some level, but our teachers are also now realizing that because they're using the Chromebooks for their writing and constantly using these mediums to support their learning, that our students are actually relying on AI a little too much, right? So one thing that one segment of my school is doing, I know my 9th grade school teachers are like, oh, when it comes to writing essays and doing that critical writing and thinking piece, we're not going to have the Chromebooks around because we want our kids to really show what they're thinking and learn how to develop their critical thinking skills. We also have an instructional focus as a school district. We know our schools, our students are, this new generation tends to love communicating through technology. And what we want to focus on is teaching them the skills and the abilities to talk about the work and the things that they're confronting and learning about in person. So again, just trying to scaffold our lesson plans to ensure that there's a high level of student interaction and student talk. So students get to chew on the things that they're thinking about and trying to solve.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Mr. Wiedemeyer, I'm going next.
Yeah, I agree. I think with kind of the pendulum swings both ways a little bit, right? We've swung one way, and someone smarter, much smarter than me, said, the pendulum never swings fully back the other way. You tend to get more and more kind of centered, and I think that's where we're at right now. We moved to a lot of computer use, and now we're that pendulum starting to swing the other way, and seeing that importance of written communication without a screen in front of us or without a device. And I also think, AI creates the new critical thinking and the new problem solving. I think leaning into some of those things and figuring out how can this create learning experiences, just like a one-to-one initiative has done way back when the calculator, right? Like all of these technological devices have impacted education, and I think it's now just part of the journey. But I agree with Mr. Price in terms of we're trying to figure out what that balance is.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Lawson, take us through next.
Well, in looking at that, we're facing a huge shift, not just a technological shift, but really a cultural one, because AI is really comprehensive, not just in the education field. And one of the things my district's been working on, we adopted a portrait of a graduate about 3 years ago. And in the interim of this, what we've done is we're going back and working with our student voice and with our community in that process and developing some outcomes and trying to define expectations so that when kids are going to graduate, as they build towards graduation, our goal is to help educate our entire community about how using both problem solving skills, critical thinking, soft skills, how all of those play into what they're going to need in the future, and balance that with the use of AI. And most of our communities will say they think AI and ChatGPT are synonymous, and they're discovering very quickly, no, our kids are finding it faster than the adults. All of the amazing tools that are at their fingertips. And so one of the things we've launched is we've reformatted our task force to redefine student outcomes that align our portrait of a graduate from pre-K now, TK through 12, with the balance of the use of technology, not just AI, but with all technology, and how they can see those tools as just a smaller aspect, but that they need the hard skills and soft skills in addition. So that's one of the, I think, probably the most critical thing that my district's doing, which I'm really pleased to be a part of, because we're seeing kids discover tools faster than adults. That's nothing new. And I think it's embracing those and then being very transparent and explaining and sharing with our parents, our community members, our business community, and our students the why behind the need for both.
Thank you. Mr. Goodman.
Mr. Goodman actually won't be able to join us today.
All right, very good. No worries there. Okay. Next question. So the category around AI and academic integrity. So with students having easy access to AI tools that can generate essays, create images and videos, solve math problems, coming more and more about, and even mimic their writing style, how is your district adjusted to its approach to assessments and academic integrity? Mr. Wiedemeyer, you want to start us off today on this one?
Yeah, sure. I think it goes a little bit back to my previous response too, right? Finding those times when, we're just going to do that good old paper pencil. I've also, in working with teachers and having teachers work through this, if you have students write enough, for example, you can tell when it's not their writing, right? I'm a middle school principal, 5 through 8. We know the words that 5th through 8th graders use. We know the words that 5th through 8th graders do not use. And so I think it's just being aware of your students that sit in the seats in front of you and how they would normally do their work. And I think again, part of that is leaning into AI a little bit, right? Being very clear as to, hey, here's an aspect that we can and should use this as we're critiquing writing or as we're, summarizing a book. We do that a lot sometimes with our struggling learners or learners of a different language. Like, how can we lean into AI to help make learning accessible as well? And teaching students how to use those tools to make it accessible is also important. So it's that balance, right? As with anything. And when do we have to be the adults and play the game a little bit better than the kids? Maybe that's, not always a great way, but I think that's a definite aspect to our educator job, is playing the game a little bit better than they do.
Sure. Mr. Lawson, you go next.
And I agree with Tyler. We recognize pretty quickly the style, the tone, the vocabulary that kids are going to use at each of those different levels. You can ask a teacher at any grade level as they get to know their kids, and they'll recognize pretty quickly. But it's more than just the writing tools. I think one of the key pieces is what all of our districts are attempting to do now across the country is how to help adjust and adapt so that we're providing access, because it's no longer just an aspect of academic integrity, but also access, because we've got kids who, with learning disabilities or with a reading disability or reading level lexile significant gap in their ability level and what they want to have access to, and to be able to use these tools to help them gain access. We're seeing instances of students learning the language or students giving an opportunity to experience a core content in spite of a disability or an infringement on their capability of working independently. And by using these tools and learning how to balance, leaving that I gotcha mode and really looking at access mode, how do we help kids be able to access and then deepen their understanding of something? And I think as our districts work on refining how do we assess something, how do we teach something, and what is the goal of that assessment or that instruction? If the goal is to develop their thinking ability and their knowledge base, that's very different than just production phase. So I think it's looking at what's the outcome and the intent. I think of, for example, there's tools right now that a lot of schools are using called Snap and Read. We have students that have a disability that it's difficult for them to record their thinking because of significant gaps in their academic levels. This gives them access. I look at some of my students who are from a different country, who come with a different language other than English, who are maybe at grade level in the language they're from, but don't have. I have a chemistry student who, at grade level, math is off the charts, but does not have the language capacity, vocabulary skills, and can communicate interpersonally, but that academic language is still developing. But using the appropriate tools, they can demonstrate their learning, which is commensurate with their peers. So I think we have to really enable teachers, provide the training and enable them the tools to be able to determine both academic integrity and access, because I think there's a fine balance in between those.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Price.
Our district has, we actually got Chromebooks en masse because of the state assessments, right? That were initiated around 2017, 2018. So as far as its approach to these assessments, I would just like to think that the district knows that our kids have access to AI tools, but they've also provided teachers with tools on the back end that can kind of assess whether or not a kid is using AI tools in their writing or in their assessments. As far as academic integrity, I'm happy to see that the district they've created an AI policy for next year that we are supposed to share with our staff and students and families around how we should approach AI. and like what everybody's saying here, it's here, right? How can we use it as a tool to support student learning, but how can we also ensure that our students are using the muscle that is needed to grow and develop? Because if they're not using that muscle and the AI tool is doing it, then how does it grow? Or it grows differently, I guess.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. All right, so our next category around staying ahead of AI's rapid evolution. Partially, good luck with that, right? So AI is evolving at an unprecedented pace. How is your district proactively planning for AI's future impact on education, ensuring policies and practices are also forward thinking? Mr. Lawson, you want to start us off with this one?
Well, and I think that statement alone, policies and practices that are forward thinking is so critical because the environment changes so rapidly. And our district's been working with an outside consultant that's working with several districts to develop education policies, not around a particular tool, because those tools will change and evolve faster than we can probably blink an eye or change our shoes. And so they're really looking at policy and practice in the long term and helping to equip and empower staff. And I think that's going to be our critical piece. We've each district that's involved in this coalition has been asked to develop a task force that involves student voice, teachers, district office, members of not just the business department, but of educational services and our support services, so that we really look at the overall complete picture. And I think that's what's critical in order to plan for the future. I think the other key that our district began this past year, that probably a little slower than others, but got on board, and that's really to look at an integrated approach, not a separate, so that we don't have like an office of AI or our technology department is integrated, our educational services department, every group within our district and that's housed is really integrating it into their practices so that it's not just seen as a standalone or the here and now or the moment by moment or the pendulum swinging activity, because we know it's here to stay. It's a growing area because it's part of this shift in our culture and the way we do business, in the way we interact with students. It's reshaping the educational delivery paradigm. And so I think that one of the keys is looking at it as an integrated approach, not as a separate by itself standalone approach, as something that's going to be here now and gone tomorrow, but long term and reshaping everything that we say and do. That I think is probably the most part. And then building in a consistent plan for regular professional development for tool usage, for common sense usage by students, for interacting, for integrity policy, all of those pieces, looking at a bigger picture to develop a consistent roadmap of professional development, so it's not a one-stop shopping, but a journey, not a destination.
Very good. Love it. Mr. Price.
Hello. I think I already kind of spoke to this when I started talking about how OUSD has developed policy or guidance around AI. And it's just basically, it says this guidance doesn't recommend or prescribe the use of it, right? Just acknowledging its growing use. And, in looking at it, at the document right now, it's just like, how do we utilize this technology, or how do we approach this technology? And one of the things it's saying is, hey, it has like a color-coded scale, right? That says, is it plain cheating? Is it reliance on AI too much? Is it just relying on it to enhance learning, or you're not using it at all? But in sharing this policy, they're also saying it's important that we have constant conversations, not only among staff, but also with our students and with our families about it. Because again, it is an ever-changing world, right? I think somebody showed me, was that Kim? It might have been Kim Carr that showed this document that showed how change has accelerated, the pace of change has accelerated over the past 100 years like that. And so, shoot, what it must say, soon teachers, and who did he say is going to be replaced first by AI? Teachers and nurses or something. So, you know, again, it's just constant conversations. As educators, we're on the forefront of change, and we should be ready to embrace it and critically think about it.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Wiedemeyer.
I don't have a lot of new to add, just echoing what both said. I think, you know, it turns into those policies. We really lean on our Iowa Association of School Boards to get some of those lead policies out, right? They work with lawyers and all that good stuff to help create those guidances. I think, as both have talked about, that professional development on three entities, just that educator use, right? How do I use it as an educator to make my job more efficient? How do we work with students using it? And then how do we use it in just our everyday life, right? Anytime I ask Siri a question, that's AI generated with the response and Google, and right, just having that awareness that there is so much more to AI than ChatGPT and those other platforms. And that really leads me to just, I think, getting that understanding that we want informed consumers, that we understand kind of that what is AI and what isn't. Because I think even the definition has changed drastically, and maybe not the definition, but just all the different applications that it can be found on has changed drastically. I think something that's humorous is, you know, our students are very savvy in some technological ways and illiterate in other technological ways. And so that creates a juxtaposition sometimes in working with students, especially with my age group of 5th grade to 8th grade.
Well, thank you. All right, so we'll kind of pivot off AI a little bit here. The next one around digital hall pass systems. So many schools have adopted the digital hall pass system to improve security and student accountability and safety. If your district has implemented one, what successes and challenges have you seen? And if not, is this something your district is, considering for this next year? Let's see, Mr. Wiedemeyer, let's start you off with this one.
Yeah, no, we have not done this. The elementary principal and I were talking about it months ago, it feels like, almost in kind of a wish list, like, man, wouldn't that be cool, sort of a thing. We have investigated this use on our buses with a system that we can then better track students and where they're going, especially as they maybe go between multiple entry and exit points within their day. So no, I would be curious with my other two colleagues on this panel if they have done that, because then I plan to steal any information they've got.
Sure. So Mr. Lawson, let's have you go next then.
Well, this is a twofold for me. Our district has a pilot going. So one of my partner high schools down about 5 minutes from me is piloting the digital hall pass while I am piloting the attendance piece in the morning. We have every student's ID badge has a barcode on the back and a QR code. They have both. And so using our phones at the moment, our security agents, our admin team, every one of us are able to scan that barcode so that it'll automatically, we can select the code and record kids being either tardy, truant, a school related. If an athletic team is leaving for a game early, we can scan all of them as they get on the bus, and it records that in attendance. So if they're out in the hallway and they should be in class, we're able to record that. So that piece is working for us. We're able to use that for attendance purposes, tardy monitoring, out lists for kids on their way to an event or something. The high school down the street from me is piloting the hall pass, and that's what we're anxious to expand that for next year. One of the benefits is, as teachers are giving those hall passes, it's quickly easy to tell if you have a scanning device. That's the key, because we can't require our agents and everyone to use their personal phone. So that's become a glitch, providing a device reader. But for those that have that, it will tell you instantly if you have a student that has permission to be out or not. When they have a hall pass that tells the time they left, where their location was, and the time returned. When we have issues on campus, I'll give you an example because all of our high school folks will be able to relate. You have a problem in the bathroom, you know somebody's been vaping or there's been some damage to the restroom. Well, you can tell real quickly, instantly, with the recording information, who was there and when, the time frame. So that helps a great deal. But there are a few challenges with having access to be able to read and tell who. And then for those that don't have a hall pass that left, or when you have a substitute teacher that's not familiar with the system and doesn't know how to utilize the recording piece, there's a few glitches that we're working on. But what I'm hearing from them is it has drastically reduced the number of kids out. It has increased the accountability, and it has decreased some of their problems on campus being able to identify where that came from and who really quickly. So we're anxious to try it for next year.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Price.
We did try a digital hall pass system this year with mild success and a lot of challenges. I have a large teaching staff, 95 teachers, and getting all of them to pull in the same direction around it was a challenge. As far as success, and another challenge, I guess, is, we had to roll it out a little bit later. I was actually talking with my staff about it, and they said, had we rolled it out at the beginning of the year, maybe it would have gone a little bit differently amongst the staff. In terms of successes, I liked it. I liked the teachers that used it. However, because kids had their passes on their phones or whatnot, it became a little bit harder to identify which kids were supposed to be in and out of the halls. And, when we had the old traditional blue pass or pass system, hey, show me your pass. So at this point in time, we did scrap it because I was like, it can't just be half of the school using it. To that point, though, what I am going to keep instead of a digital hall pass system next year, because my district is using it in certain schools. They got a grant to pay for one of the systems, and one of the systems offers PBIS, and I'm going to try that. And the reason why I'll try that is because we've done PBIS in real time before, and I know that not everybody does that. And you can run PBIS and not everybody buys in, but you can't run an attendance system or a hall pass system when everybody's not buying in.
Very good. All right, so the next category are the latest ed tech trend, non-AI. All right, so outside of AI, what is the biggest ed tech trend or tool that has impacted your district this year? And has it been a net positive? And what lessons have you learned from implementing it? So, Mr. Price, go ahead and start us off on this one.
Talking about ed tech trend or tool that has impacted my district this year. Honestly, you guys, and I hate to tell a sad story. Social media is in Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. Again, you guys may have heard it. Some people say social media is the devil, and the way that our kids are using it is so counterproductive right now. To that point, I'll have conversations with my students, and I'm like, they don't let kids in China do what y'all do on TikTok. It's used differently there. They don't let kids show their arses on TikTok in those respects, right? At any rate, I don't know. The lesson that I have is, we had a basically social media incident led to a tragic incident in my community yesterday. And that's Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff, right? But our kids are using these as part of their education or their educational experience. At any rate, I guess my lessons learned implementing or dealing with these this year is, our kids are a little ignorant about their usage, and we have to educate them not only with care, but also educate them with discipline as well, right? Because again, what we don't want is the way these kids relate on phones and interaction is just counterproductive, and it's so yeah. My lesson is hold kids accountable and teach them lessons about their usage of social media in general. Don't know if I answered your question, but good enough for me.
So thank you. Sorry to hear about the difficulty you had happen.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Lawson.
Well, this is a fun one. For me, I'm going to say it revolves around virtual reality and augmented reality tools. We had not explored as much other than, the little Google glasses, but this past year we began launching into a lot more exploration of that and started with our career technical program. And I had the best time visiting our health academy because they took kids on virtual tours of the heart, some of the organs like, a kidney tour, a heart tour, a lung tour, with the virtual reality things that are out there that I had no idea. So we've been launching to that. And then the last couple of months, we've tried some virtual, I guess you'd say, augmented reality field trips where it's with some of the drone technology that's just recently happened. So we took some of our biology classes, our earth science classes, and they were able to do some field trips around the world, so to speak, controlling a drone. There's a company that they were able to work with, and they'll fly the drone, and kids got to explore. Like there was one that involved some of the volcanic action over on the large island in Hawaii. They had another that was an animal preserve in, I want to say it was in Kenya, and so our biology class got to work with that particular piece and some of the wildlife. It's just that particular, I'd say, was one of the biggest impacts because it's not only was it at first a wow factor for the kids, but it really grabbed their interest, engaged them, and then turned them on to deeper research or deeper work because of that exposure. So instead of the typical show a video clip that illustrates something in class and then you launch into an instruction, this was using a virtual or augmented reality experience. And I've been really surprised to see just how engaging it was for the kids. That's a new one. It's something that we're just beginning to grow. I know the drone field trip piece over national landmarks or preserves or things around the country, that's just beginning to grow. And I have to look up the name for it so I can put that in the chat for everyone. But that's been my biggest aha. It's been a positive. I want to see what the long-term effect will be as kids are exposed to this, because right now it's the big wow factor, I guess you'd say.
Thank you. All right, so the last planned question we have is around a hidden gem, an EdTech tool that you recommend. So what is an under the radar EdTech tool that your district or maybe in your building that you have found particularly valuable? How has it benefited students, teachers, or administrators in ways maybe you did not necessarily expect? Mr. Lawson, you want to start us off?
Well, for me, I want to say it has to be the use of some of the access tools. Some of my special needs students who now can use things such as Snap and Read and Co-Writer, and some of those have begun to have access at a level that, rather than withdrawing or shutting down or feeling like they're not able to participate in a collaborative group or in a classroom setting commensurate with everyone else, those tools have enabled them to do that. And so the benefit for us this year, as an example, 2 of my kids that had limited access wanted to be in the engineering pathway. They're in the engineering pathway. They used all those tools. Well, of all the kids that made it in Skills USA to state level, it was my 2 students with the largest learning disability who were using those tools to compensate. And so that was a huge benefit for them, for our teachers, and for us that we did not expect. It gave them access. It didn't lower their thinking ability. It didn't provide, all it did was gave them access at their lexile level, their readability level, and help them to do research or write or to participate at the same level as everyone else. But it unlocked their thinking. They still did all the thinking. It just was a tool that they could use, just like you might use any other tool out in your garage to do work around the house. Well, they saw the AI tools and Snap and Read and Co-Writer in the same fashion. And they ended up outperforming everybody else, which was a wonderful aha. So that to me was our best benefit.
Awesome, Maria. Mr. Price.
I was having a conversation with a teacher earlier this year about AI and Google Classroom and whatnot. And she made a good point. This is a 12th grade teacher, and I'm in an urban school district. And You know, the fact is, unfortunately, in this district, there's what's called social promotion. And so I have kids in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade that are reading way below grade level. And this teacher is like, Mr. Price, there's no way I can make up that ground in 1 year to get those kids to where they need to go. And this teacher basically was promoting this AI program called Magic School to help students develop their critical thinking skills and their writing skills and all the skills that they were lacking when they came to her. So that is what I have for you. It's benefited those kids that are significantly behind in her classes, and she uses it as a way to encourage them to say, hey, it's not too late.
Love it. I know Mr. Wiedemeyer had to step away for a student issue. Is he back yet? Tyler, you back? What? Maybe not. All right. So before we get started on some of the Q&A, and I know we don't really necessarily have any in there, but you know, Mr. Price, you were kind of talking a little bit about Magic School. So I thought, Mr. Lawson, have you guys had any experience with Magic School in your district?
Yes, we have access for all of our teachers for Magic School dashboard. So there's several tools that are available in that particular platform. So I have a huge variety of people using different components of that.
Okay. Whether you or Mr. Price, have you guys done any professional development around, you know, one, maybe that specific AI tool, Magic School, or any other specific ones you can think of?
I haven't done any PDs around AI. That will be on the docket next year. I also have a cadre of teachers that are very interested in discussing it as an artificial AI educators committee. I'm sure they will coalesce around the policy that the district has just shared and the guidance that the district has shared for them as well.
Okay. Mr. Whittereiron, thanks for making it back here. So you didn't get a chance to respond to question 6, so I thought I'd give you a chance here. So what's an under the radar EdTech tool at your district or maybe in your building you have found valuable? How has it benefited students, teachers, or administrators, and maybe in ways you didn't necessarily expect?
Yes, no, I apologize, and I'm sorry I didn't get to hear all the words of wisdom. Because I don't have a ton. I think, you know, teachers are just slowly dabbling in it. Well, I think one of the best ways that teachers have shared is just that ability to give feedback on things, right? Student writing is primarily one of those things because that can be a very hard task. Poor ELA teachers, I think that's often the leading cause of burnout is those multi-page writing assignments. So that's probably the best, like, oh my goodness, that saves us just a ton of time. Some other teachers have talked about Adobe has had some great things in there that they can utilize in the art and digital creation world. But those are the only two that I have really found. So,
Okay. And while you're stepping away, Mr. Price had brought up the use of Magic School in his district. So, thought, have you guys done any use of that, or have you done any kind of professional development around Magic School, or maybe some other specific AI tool that you want to mention?
yeah, Brisk is the one that I think our ELA teachers have found success with when we did our Iowa assessments, our state testing, our students practiced the writing assignment or the writing assessment using Brisk and getting that real-time feedback, which was extremely helpful. We've dabbled in some PD late spring. It's always that balance of, you know, do you do that towards the end of the year to get a jump start on next year? Are teachers just so exhausted that they can't think about anything new? And so then you jump ahead of that for next year. I think Mr. Price had talked about this too, kind of jumping on next year and kind of seeing what we can put together that's well planned. And I think that's the other aspect is making sure it's well planned. There are always a buffet of options out there for educators. And I think having a team, as I know Mr. Lawson and Mr. Price have talked about, kind of do some of that navigation is helpful so teachers don't get lost in the shelves and shelves of options that they have.
Yeah. So I think Mr. Lawson, it was you that kind of mentioned about forming like an AI task force next year. Is that right? Also, so I'll just kind of opens up to whoever wants to touch on it. Are you is anyone else doing that? What are all the different voices you're trying to get to the table? You thought about trying to get, some devil's advocate voices into the voice within the group, and then what might be some of those initial priorities you're looking to tackle with that team? Yeah, anybody who wants
I
to.
think I was the one that talked about a committee
Okay, sorry, I
being
missed
at
first.
my
Yeah.
school next year.
Okay.
It's under the, no, and so I missed your question. I thought I was reading the question. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It was just kind of like, what are all the different voices trying to bring to the table, and maybe any thought of intentionally adding in like a devil's advocate type of voice to have maybe a balance to those conversations. So just anything you want to kind of comment about that.
I can jump on. We're about 1,000 students in our district, and we have the luxury of kind of being all connected in a K-12 campus. And so we've actually had some district-wide collaborative meetings during our PD days, our in-service days, and we've kind of dabbled in that. Just, hey, let's have a conversation. Where's everyone at with feeling wise? And it really is the continuum of, yes, I want to know more and I want to jump right on board, and no, I don't want to know anymore. And that's been a really good feeler, and I think that's can lead into our in-service plans for next year. And then we have some teachers that are really into it, just interested in knowing more, interested in helping their colleagues learn more. And they've really led kind of those task force, which has been a great way to embed teacher leadership in it and really have them lead the run on something that they're invested in.
Open it up. Anybody else who wants to kind of comment?
One of the things in my district I wanted to share in that task force is they've really focused the group on developing not only digital citizenship, but literacy with digital literacy, and AI is a component of that. And they're really working hard to, they did a stakeholder survey to reach out not only to students, parents, and staff members, but they did so with our business community and our local city leaders, and then our larger community outside business group that all hiring the hiring practices that are out there, looking at the community, saying what is it we look for in graduates that we're going to increase our business workforce. And so as they develop that the survey, they put together a task force that has members of all of that. And I think that's what's really helping them steer clear, so that it's not just a policy group but it's also a guidance group, and helps to a steering committee so that they can look. And they've developed a plan so that every year at the end of the year, they're really looking at a 3-year plan. When one falls off, adding the 4th year. When that falls off, add the 5th year, so that they're reinventing it at the end of each school year to stay current, to stay fresh, and look at how they're going to make this a journey, not a destination, because things are going to change on us over time. And I think that's one of the strengths of it. And they have representation of all those groups. They've worked hard to get it. It was a little slow process at the beginning, but it's really taking shape with more than just policy. They're really looking at guidelines, practices, and shaping a continuous journey. And I think that's really helpful as we look at changes that we don't know yet. I mean, there's going to be things come our way that we haven't even imagined. I think that's going to be critical for groups to keep that in their mind's eye as they formulate these.
Love it. So we still have some time, and without any necessary questions in the chat, what if we just kind of open up, based on a variety of things we've talked about, or anything else that comes to mind? Any questions, maybe kind of ask of each other, anything you want to ask? Yeah.
I guess what I would ask is, do any of your districts look at AI usage through a punitive lens at this point in time?
And you're referring to like the academic integrity piece,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone who wants to jump in on that?
I'm just questioning it because, I don't know, there's always the question between the carrot and the stick, right? The carrot and the stick and what works. For me, I'm old school on some level. I got the stick a lot, and yet I'm here, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody wants to jump in?
I have several teachers who began looking at it through the punitive lens, like, I want to give them 0 credit for a paper, or 0 for this assignment because they were copying and it wasn't their own work. But with our professional development that we've done this year, and we chose to do it in small bite-sized chunks, anything more than an hour, I felt like they weren't it wasn't sticking. So we keep it to smaller workshops more frequently. And so we do some choice workshops so that every 2 to 3 months we have an afternoon staff meeting where we break it out in sessions like you go to a conference, and there's more than one thing you can attend, and a variety of things to participate in. And doing it that way, people that are ready to jump in, people that are a little reluctant, that are still on the punitive stage, they've kind of gotten their feet wet, and we've helped to provide some resources and training so they can get in the driver's seat rather than an after the fact, okay, now you did this essay and this isn't your own work. We now moved it to how do you front load and teach the skills, and then provide some guidance for students to use AI tools in preparation before they have to create an assignment or a project or a paper or a slide deck. So that it really is putting it out front, and then having them work in teams to develop rubrics so that students know up front, here's the way I can use the tool, here's what's okay, here's what's not okay, so that they don't feel like they're cheating and they feel like they're able to use it to expand their thinking. That's been a little slower in development, but as we've done those and we do them in small bite-sized chunks, the momentum seems to work really well. I tell people it's kind of like thinking of westward movement. I've got my trailblazers, my explorers who are out there with AI, and they're trying every little program. Then you've got trailblazers who see that on a destination and they're going to follow. And then you've got your settlers who are like, okay, now I can come westward move, and I'm going to follow those folks that are leading the way because it's worked for them. But I still have a few squatters that are never going to move. So we just wait, show them how it works, and they get left behind. And pretty soon they're like, oh, wait a minute, it's kind of lonely here. Everybody's moving but me. So as we do it in small chunks, I haven't had to push. We just showcase, and some of those on their own don't want to be left behind. And I would recommend to everyone, small bite-sized chunks. Otherwise, people get overwhelmed and they don't remember half of it.
Some anyone else wanted to comment on that? Okay, no worries. So we have a question in the chat from Sandra. Thank you for posing a question, Sandra. How do you vet the programs you choose to use in terms of security, and not just around AI, but ed tech and whatnot? So yeah.
I think OUSD provides Google Suite with a whole list of resources and add-ons and applications that we can add to or use to enhance our teaching practices. And then it becomes incumbent upon our teachers to take some action. I used to pay for turnitin.com, and then I'm like, well, I'm paying for it, but Google has a function that can do the same thing, does it not? So it's just it becomes, there's a level of access determined by technology services at the district, and then there's a level determined by teachers on our level. I've got too much on my plate to think about it. You can't use that one, or you can't use that. And they're not, some would listen to me, some would. I have 95 teachers.
Mr. Wiedemann, Mr. Lawson, yeah, either one.
Yeah, I agree. I think we lean on our, our area education agencies to help us with some of that vetting process. And I agree. I think even teachers too, sometimes they'll find a trinket on a social media, and they'll play around with it a little bit. And it's really a little bit of trial by error, hopefully not trial by fire, as they kind of navigate some of those options, but really leaning on those that can help do the vetting for us.
I'd say the same as Tyler. We've relied on our district folks that have a team to do that. Teachers will request, we have a Google form where they can request a tool or something they'd like to try that they've seen at a conference, or they've learned from a friend, or they've seen online. But we even tell them if they do it on their own home device or their personal device, not their school device, because we're in a day and age with some of these programs, if they refuse the district policy for student privacy and data privacy, they want access to student numbers, and some of the programs that teachers want to try where it will require you to put in student ID numbers and things in order to merge it with your grade. But we rely a lot on the district for that because there's so many components to that we wouldn't have the capacity, the time, and the ability at a school site level to handle, to prevent a major data breach or a privacy breach. So we rely on them as well, for those particular tools.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for asking, Sandra. Appreciate it. Any other questions you want to pose to the rest of the members on the panel? Yeah, okay. Well, Ria, I guess we have all of our questions asked and answered, if you will.
Thank you. As a thank you gift for everyone attending today, we are giving away free copies of the Social Media Emergency Plan, a comprehensive digital safety resource from Digital for Good. This interactive guide empowers school leaders to proactively address social media emergencies in an educational setting. It equips you with tools needed to assess risks, collect crucial information, communicate effectively, and respond swiftly. With this plan, you can confidently handle cyberbullying, campus threats, and other harmful online behaviors, and ensure the safety and well being of your students and staff. You can download the plan for free by scanning the QR code on this slide. Panelist applications for next year's Admin TechTalk series are currently open. If you're an administrator or educator and have benefited from the insights shared during these sessions, we strongly encourage you to apply as a panelist. As you've seen today, each session is a great opportunity for education professionals to come together and exchange strategies and advice about the digital issues impacting your schools today. Previous and current panelists are also welcome to apply again. As we close, I encourage everyone to scan the QR code on your screen to get updates on even more great events and free resources from Digital for Good. Thank you to all of our speakers for joining our discussion today, and thank you for our audience members for tuning in. It has been wonderful hosting this year's Tech Talk sessions for you all, and we hope to see you again at next year's series.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Great opportunity to share.
Thank you.